And I asked you guys to kind of do it, and I got some feedback from some other students. When I've asked them to do project proposals, they've come back and told me it's kind of like they're just working blind. They don't know the direction to go through. And I think this will be really helpful to solidify your thoughts. I know, Yash, before you started this summer project, I had you do a proposal. Zara, if you went through a little bit of an idea of doing a proposal for the project. And we'll focus on the overarching category of autism, the spectrum of opportunities within improving the care for autistic kids. But in general, like the outline that I'm about to show you all for project proposals, or like, it's really, it's not like a concrete outline that you absolutely have to stick by. But I think if you went through this, and let me pull it up, if you went through this process, it's a really pretty simple process. If you went through this thought process of going through each one of these steps, then it's going to really help you to formulate a solid proposal going forward. So for example, I've used this very specific thought process, and a lot of it starts off with just listening. So the beginning part is just listening to what's going on, and just giving a lot of taking in all different types of inputs. So for example, I had somebody who was organizing a large conference for like thousands of people. And then they said, I have a particular need for somebody to speak on these things. They started listing a whole bunch of things, like somebody who's familiar with technology, familiar with the clinical aspect of this particular care. And after I like jotted down like a mass ton of notes, I then came back to them and said, look, if you're looking for this type of thing, this is what I can offer. And that actually led to an opportunity to get flown in to speak at that conference. And alhamdulillah, like I was paid like $1,000 for like a 20-minute speech. And it was a pretty incredible experience to go through that. And I've used this same thought process for other situations, like even when applying for a job or so any type of situation. So I think of your career or occupation as a series of projects, really. That's what your CV is these are the projects I've worked on, and these are the people that I've worked with. So you guys are able to see this document here that I'm sharing? You guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So the idea is I'm going to try to help whoever is listening to this, you guys as students going forward. You can take this outline and whatever you have, Zaraf, specifically you, and hopefully Mustafa and anybody else, who's looking at creating a proposal. So for example, I care for kids with neurological conditions, and I do a lot to try to push the care to the next level, do more and really advance things to really help them out. So the spectrum of kids who have autism, if you want to work on a project with me to really help those kids in that population of kids, then I would want you to try to take the ideas that we discuss, the time that we spend to kind of bounce thoughts back and forth, and then formulate it in a very systematic way. So all of these should kind of go into your overall thought process. And if you could take, Zara, if you could take what you've put together and outline it like this, and there may be certain gaps. So I'll go kind of step by step. Have an overarching kind of title to your topic. So say, okay, I'm interested in studying CBD and the applications of CBD on the pediatric neurology population, and more specifically in the autistic population. So that's like the title or the theme of the project. But the purpose is why are you interested in studying? So when you think about purpose, you would want to formulate a title or theme subject, but then have the statement of because. So you have a title to your project, and then the next purpose is because. Because what? So think like because we think that autistic kids may benefit from CBD and its neurobehavioral effects. So that's like the purpose of this, and seeing there is some evidence. So now once you have that one, and really the purpose should really be a very simplistic single statement. I want to study this because of this, and and then the rest of it should kind of lead into that. So then I want to, and I kind of hinted toward you guys and whoever meets with me, that what are the research opportunities to even prepare for your project. So that's all the background material that you put in. So, do a literature search, use PubMed, use some of the resources that I've given you guys. Look up different textbooks or chapter books, or you can even look into certain YouTube videos that are talking about groundbreaking issues, or news articles, anything that's out there that really makes an argument that this is a topic that really needs to be researched, but you've done the research to prove that point. And so at the end, you'll definitely have a list of kind of references that are there. So I could add that as another R. But the research that you put in has to mention all the background material and evidence that you have to prove, to indicate where you got the idea for this purpose. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So autism and CBD. If you say autism and CBD, you might do a literature search on PubMed and say there's some indication that that CBD oil might, there's some case reports. And so you would mention those case reports and just kind of add a reference. So I'll add a quick references to those, to the articles, the articles, videos, etc. And so that's where you kind of put that in this section, or you have it in your overall proposal. It doesn't have to be necessarily organized in this particular way, but this is helpful to think about what you need to do to prepare for a good, solid proposal. I put resources that are here too, because you could start to mention certain institutions that have done similar research as well, and that might be a resource for you to ask, or certain people that might be helpful to reach out to. So that might be a resource that you need, or that you might find of value. And then the next section is the objective section. So this is where just a line by line, exactly, there may be one specific objective, that what it is that you want to accomplish. So let's say autism and neuromodulation. So how can transcranial magnetic stimulation help autistic kids? So the expected outcome might be, well, you write a summary article that summarizes a prominent research piece on neuromodulation in the pediatric population. So that's one expected outcome. And you could have like a timeline to that outcome that, I expect to have that done within 2 months. And that can build into a larger project, which is, well, I want to be able to help start a neuromodulation protocol for the autistic population, maybe in adults first, and something like that, or create some sort of protocol, or reach out to an interview. Maybe one objective, I want to have a solid interview with an expert in the field on neuromodulation in autism, or microbiome transplant in autism, and you have like that solid interview as an outcome, and a detailed notes that come from that interview as an objective. So it should just be like a few different lines, and that kind of gives you target goals that you're looking to accomplish. Then when I get to the plan section, that's where you're going into how are you going to accomplish that. And this is where it can get kind of difficult too, because you might say, well, I really don't know. I need the mentorship to figure it out. And that's okay. Even the process of saying, I don't know, but these are the details that I don't know, that's helpful. So you start going into your plan in detail. You say, well, I don't know what research there is out there. So then you might say, well, I'm going to try to find out. I'm going to ask people that have done similar research. Well, so I need to ask my mentor, what are the particular people? So definitely your mentor that's involved. Or you might say, well, I may need to collaborate with some other students that are working on a different project, or I might be able to tap into my library resources and a particular researcher at my institution, like UTD or UT Southwestern, or what are the different places? So you might say, well, all of this can be done remotely from the comfort of my home, or I'm going to be traveling at a particular place, but can I still work on the project in those places, and the timing. So your whole proposal is is a case for you to be working on this project, where you have put in the thought and the effort that you have a particular plan on how to make the project happen, and you've put in a lot of work ahead of time to describe that. So the timing, like, okay, well, you could say, I got all these other things going on, but I can definitely commit to about 2 hours a week or 10 hours a week, or whatever it is. You want to lay it right up front, how much time you're able to commit to a project like this. And then the next section is obstacles. So any questions so far about what I talked about, objectives and the plan in detail?
No.
Zaraf, anything?
No, I said no. Yeah,
okay, so then the obstacles, this is an interesting section, because this is really where you start to say, I could potentially run into these barriers. So when I'm trying to, one of the objectives might be, I want to be able to present this, this paper or this research at a conference. And so some of the barriers might be, well, can we get it done in time? There might be funding barriers. How am I going to get to that conference? How am I going to, so thinking about those sorts of things, or how am I going to get access to the data? Do we need an institutional review board to approve of this type of research being done? And so those are, if I have another type of project, like there might be a student who's interested in working on a project that's just creating an actual, what do you say, like a report program. So a report program, I think that's a very nice sub-project that one student might work on, is they go in and how do you do a rating, an autism rating scale, and create a report for that. So there might be certain barriers, like figuring out, well, does every insurance company accept this type of report? How do I figure it out? Do I have the insurance company's contact information? So this is where you're putting the extra effort to think about, how is it possible that that I might have certain sticking points to the completion of this project, and then just putting them out there as obstacles helps you be aware of them, as opposed to you're walking around in the dark and trying to figure out how to make this project, and you're just running into these obstacles as you meet them, as opposed to knowing that they're there way ahead of time. And so it's like you have this goal in mind, and then as you're trying to reach that goal, you already know you're going to meet certain obstacles to get there. The last two things are, I think, so all of these top things that I've highlighted here, pretty much every single project proposal that you will encounter in life, in the business world, in engineering, they have these outlined. The last two are kind of unique, and I like them. Specifically, and when I discuss project proposals, and I'd like any student that works with me to really go through them, is because they're kind of emotional aspects to a project. Because what does success really mean for you? So, for example, Zaraf, you're applying to medical school, and I think, inshallah, you're going to be an amazing medical student and future doctor, physician. And for success for you might be, I want a publication on mine so I can have this type of learning, and this is what I've kind of gotten out of it, and it would mean a lot for me in this particular way, like this level of mentorship. And for Yash, if you're working on a particular project, success for you might mean I got nice exposure to neuroscience in the real world, and that kind of helped me to decide what am I going to do in terms of my undergraduate coursework or research opportunities, or what you want to do kind of going forward. Mm-hmm. And the last thing is the limitations and the learning, even if a loss. So success for you also is kind of like a best case scenario. Like, if this succeeds, here are the amazing things that can come out of it. The limitations or the learning, even if a loss, is like, well, even if the project is an utter failure, like we end up showing that CBD really at the end of the day doesn't help this autistic population. And so, but in that sense, it didn't prove the purpose. What it did, or the hypothesis, if you will, what it did though is you learned a lot in the process. So if you didn't go through, if the project didn't succeed, then this is what would happen. Another way of looking at this section, or have some people look at it, is, what if I didn't go through? What if I stopped right here and said, I went through all these steps to do a project proposal. Now I decided at the end of the day, you know what, I'm not going to go forward with this project. And so I'm not going to go forward. So what does that mean for me? What am I missing out on? And so for some people, actually, they might even be missing out on more if they did do the project. So for example, I had a student that came to me and he said, well, I need volunteer hours, and then it'd be nice to do a project with you. And then he's also studying for the MCAT and doing all the other things. And so he was interested in a particular project, and actually by doing the project, he would have actually missed out on the opportunity to be successful on his MCAT studies. And so what I did basically is I essentially told him that, look, by doing these sorts of things, by working on a project like this, you're going to miss out on something that's going to be even more valuable to you, which is a successful MCAT score, and that's going to help your career. And so that was kind of a insightful learning process for that student. And so I recommend for students to go through that process as well. So I think what I'm going to go ahead and so do you guys have any other any comments about this? Let's see.
Sorry, I had to mute myself. One of the videos started going off, but I'm good for now. So you're saying the success and limitations part, they are they're more of like a personal kind of part, not really related to the project?
Yeah, they are related to the project, but they're more like an emotional aspect to your own personal investment to the project.
Okay.
So like for some students, yeah, they say, well, success for me just means I had something to do over the summer. Whereas for others, it might be, success for me means that, well, that I realize that this is not really my career aspiration, that I don't want to be a doctor or a neurologist, or instead I want to be a researcher, or I want to be a graphic designer, or a teacher or something like that. So really, that's taking a very personalized, like, what does it mean for me as a student who's creating this project proposal?
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Cool. Well, so I really just want to make this a quick, a quick summary of the approach to looking at a particular project, and I hope you guys can take this same thing in the future with you, and at least go through this process. And my expectation, I guess, is for any student who's working with me to show that they've been through this thought process by outlining their project proposal in this particular way. So yeah, I appreciate you guys taking the time to sign on, and we'll connect some more from here.
Sounds